an epic showdown, behind the scenes of eternity. When Moses died, something wild went down. Lucifer himself showed up. He wanted the body of the great lawgiver, but he ran into some serious resistance. The Archangel Michael stood in his way. Lucifer got shut down with just one sentence. Michael secured Moses' body, not with brute force, but with unmatched power, the ultimate authority of God. This wasn't just a fight over a corpse, it was a war for the legacy of an entire nation. Why did God see this body as so valuable? Why was Lucifer defeated so easily? And what does this reveal about the unseen battles fought on your behalf? Hit that like button, subscribe, and dive into the secrets of this heavenly showdown. It'll change the way you see divine protection forever. Did you know that one of the most intense battles between good and evil happened over a dead body? And not just anyone's body, Moses, the man who spoke face to face with God and received the 10 Commandments. When he died, something extraordinary happened behind the scenes of eternity. Lucifer himself came down to claim his body, but he faced a resistance he never saw coming. The Archangel Michael stepped in between the devil and the remains of Israel's greatest lawgiver. What followed was a showdown that would reveal deep secrets about spiritual authority, divine protection, and the value God places on those who serve him. This wasn't just a fight over a physical body. It was a battle for the spiritual legacy of an entire nation. Get ready to find out why God saw Moses' body as so precious that he sent his most powerful archangel to protect it. Moses' death was shrouded in mystery from the very start. Deuteronomy 34:6 drops a bombshell. He buried him in a valley in the land of Moab opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his burial place to this day. God himself buried his servant in a spot that would stay secret forever. But why all the secrecy? Why would the creator of the universe get personally involved in burying a man? The answer lies in human nature and our tendency toward idolatry. Moses had become such a revered figure that his body could easily turn into an object of worship. The Israelites had already shown their weakness for idols with the golden calf, and God knew Moses' remains could spark a whole new kind of spiritual detour. The secret burial was a safeguard to keep true worship from getting corrupted. But there was something even deeper going on. Moses' body carried physical marks of God's glory. His face literally shone after those encounters on Mount Sinai, and his whole being had been transformed by the divine presence. This wasn't just any body. It was a vessel sanctified by the glory of the Most High. God was protecting not just a corpse, but a living testimony of his power and presence. The hidden grave also had a prophetic purpose. Moses still had a future role to play, his appearance at the transfiguration of Jesus centuries later. God was preserving his servant for a specific moment in the story of redemption. That burial wasn't the end. It was prep for a future mission that would supernaturally connect law and grace. So Moses' death wasn't just the close of an era, it was the start of a divine protection that would stretch across the ages. God had invested too much in his servant to let his legacy be corrupted or his body defiled. But who else knew about the strategic importance of this body and what dark plans were brewing in the shadows? Lucifer wasn't interested in Moses by accident. His motivation was deeply strategic and showed just how twisted his schemes could get. The devil understood better than most the spiritual and prophetic weight Moses carried in God's plan. He wasn't after just a body. He wanted control over a legacy that could shape generations. His calculating mind had spotted a chance for spiritual sabotage like never before. Satan's first goal was to corrupt God's law through idolatry. If he could get his hands on Moses' body, he could inspire the people to build a cult around the lawgiver's remains. Imagine the destructive power of turning the man who received "You shall not make idols" into an idol himself. It would be the ultimate irony, using Moses to break the very commandment he delivered. Lucifer also knew Moses was the bridge between God and Israel. Corrupting his legacy would mean attacking the very foundation of the divine covenant. If he could sow doubt about Moses' integrity or twist his memory into superstition, he could undermine the people's trust in the law and the commandments. It was a direct assault on the heart of God's revelation. a move to discredit the word itself. There was also a prophetic angle Satan wanted to block. He knew Moses had a future role in God's redemption plan, his appearance at the Transfiguration alongside Elijah and Jesus. If he could corrupt or destroy Moses' body, he might interfere with this crucial moment in revealing Christ's glory. It was an attempt to sabotage the Messiah's ministry before it even began. Finally, Lucifer wanted to make a point about justice and mercy. Moses had messed up by striking the rock instead of speaking to it, which kept him out of the promised land. Satan planned to use this failure as a legal argument to claim the body, saying a sinner didn't deserve divine protection. It was a move to question God's grace and set a dangerous precedent about who's worthy of heavenly protection. But Lucifer had underestimated something huge: the difference between brute force and divine authority. When Michael faced off with Lucifer, something unexpected happened. The most powerful archangel in heaven didn't flex his spiritual muscles or show off his supernatural strength. Instead, he just said one thing: "The Lord rebuke you." That response reveals a key principle about spiritual warfare that a lot of Christians still don't fully get. The victory wasn't about Michael's own ability. It was all about the authority he represented. Michael could have easily taken Lucifer down in a straight-up fight. As an archangel, he had more than enough power and authority to take on any demon. But he chose a different path, the path of submitting to God's ultimate authority. By saying, "The Lord rebuke you," Michael was making it clear that this wasn't going to be settled by force, but by the final word of the Creator. It was a show of humility and spiritual wisdom. Michael's attitude teaches us what real spiritual authority is all about. It's not about what we can do in our own strength, but about the authority we carry when we're lined up with God's will. Michael knew his authority came from his position as a servant of the Most High, not from his personal skills. He was operating under divine delegation, and that made his words unshakable. Michael's response also revealed a crucial spiritual strategy. When we face accusations from the enemy, we shouldn't get into debates or try to defend ourselves. Just like Michael didn't argue with Lucifer about Moses' worthiness, we should simply call on God's authority. The devil can question our ability, but he can't question the authority of the Lord. It's a powerful lesson on how to handle spiritual attacks. Lucifer was instantly shut down. All his legal arguments, all his claims over Moses' body, his whole sabotage plan, wiped out by a single declaration of divine authority. No negotiation, no drawn-out debate, just God's final word through his representative. It was a clear demonstration that, in the spiritual realm, authority always trumps force. But why exactly was Moses such a strategic target for Lucifer's plans? Moses wasn't just another religious leader. He was a key piece on God's prophetic chessboard. His strategic importance went way beyond leading the Exodus. First off, he was the direct receiver of God's law, the guy who climbed Mount Sinai and got the 10 Commandments straight from God's hands. Attacking Moses meant attacking the very foundation of the covenant between God and his people. It was like trying to knock out the cornerstone of Israel's entire legal and moral system. Moses' body actually carried unique physical marks of divine glory. Exodus 34:29 says, "The skin of his face shone after his encounters with God." That physical transformation wasn't just symbolic. It was tangible proof that God had touched and changed his servant in a supernatural way. Lucifer knew this body had literally been sanctified by the presence of the Most High, making it an insanely valuable trophy for his evil ambitions. There was also a crucial prophetic angle Satan was trying to block. Moses had a date with the future, his appearance at the Transfiguration of Jesus, recorded in Matthew 17. On that mountain, he would show up alongside Elijah, representing the law, while Elijah represented the prophets. Together, they'd testify to Christ's divinity. If Lucifer could corrupt or destroy Moses' body, he might sabotage this key moment in the revelation of the Messiah. Moses' role as a mediator between God and the people also made him a strategic target. He'd been the channel through which God spoke to Israel for 40 years. His credibility and integrity were vital for the people's trust in God's revelation. To corrupt his legacy would be to undermine the very foundation of Israel's faith. It was a direct attack on the heart of the relationship between God and his chosen nation. Finally, Moses was living proof that God can use imperfect people to accomplish perfect purposes. Despite his mistakes, including killing the Egyptian and disobeying at the rock, God still chose and used him powerfully. Lucifer wanted to destroy this evidence of divine grace, trying to set a precedent that sinners don't deserve God's protection or honor. It was an attempt to rewrite the rules of heavenly mercy, but can human failures ever cancel out the value God places on his servants? God's protection over Moses' body reveals something deep about his character. He never abandons those who belong to him, even when they mess up. Moses made some pretty big mistakes in his life, from impulsively killing that Egyptian to the costly disobedience at the rock in Meribah. That last slip-up was so serious, it kept Moses out of the promised land. But even then, God claimed him as his servant and protected his legacy from satanic corruption. This divine attitude totally challenges our human sense of justice and merit. Lucifer definitely argued that Moses didn't deserve any special protection because of his sins. In the legal logic of the kingdom of darkness, human failures cancel out divine rights. But God plays by different rules, the rules of grace and redemption. Once someone is his, he takes on the responsibility of protecting and honoring them, no matter what mistakes they've made in the past. God claiming Moses also shows that our value isn't based on our performance, but on our position as his adopted children. Moses wasn't valuable because he was perfect. He was valuable because he belonged to God. That's a crucial lesson for every believer. Our security doesn't depend on how well we avoid messing up, but on God's faithfulness to keep us as his own. That truth brings hope to anyone struggling with imperfections and failures. God protecting Moses' body also shows that he sees the big picture of our lives, not just our weak moments. He took into account 40 years of faithful leadership, those intimate encounters on Mount Sinai, and Moses' bold prayers for a rebellious people. Moses' mistakes didn't erase decades of dedicated service. God weighed his whole life and decided he deserved honor, not abandonment. This truth has powerful implications for our spiritual lives. When the enemy tries to accuse us because of our past, we can respond with the same authority Michael showed. We don't have to defend ourselves or justify our mistakes. We just declare that we belong to God and he claims us as his own. Our security is rooted in God's faithfulness, not our human perfection. But how should we respond when the enemy uses our failures to accuse and attack us? Michael's response to Lucifer teaches us one of the most practical lessons about spiritual warfare in the Bible. When we're hit with accusations about our mistakes and failures, the strategy isn't to argue or try to justify ourselves. Michael didn't debate the merits or flaws of Moses, didn't present some elaborate legal defense, and didn't try to downplay the great lawgiver's sins. Instead, he simply said, "The Lord rebuke you." That's the spiritual weapon of rebuke, in action. Rebuking in the Lord's name is different from just denying or rejecting something. It's a declaration of authority that calls on God's power and position in the situation. When Michael rebuked Lucifer, he wasn't using his own authority as an archangel. He was channeling the supreme authority of the Creator. It's like he was saying, "This isn't for you or me to decide, but for the Lord of hosts." That transfer of authority totally changes the dynamic of the fight. This strategy is especially powerful when we're dealing with accusations about our past. The devil is a pro at digging up our mistakes, failures, and weak moments. He uses those accusations to paralyze us, shame us, and make us question our place with God. But Michael's lesson shows we don't have to play that game. Instead of trying to explain or justify our mistakes, we just call on God's authority over our lives and declare that he claims us as his own. Rebuking works because it recognizes the battle isn't really about us. It's about God's authority. When Lucifer attacked Moses, he was actually questioning God's ability to protect and honor his imperfect servants. It was a direct attack on divine grace and mercy. Michael got that, and he redirected the issue to where it really belonged, the court of the Most High. That's a lesson in humility and spiritual wisdom every believer needs to learn. The power of this spiritual weapon is clear in the outcome. Lucifer was instantly silenced and defeated. There was no long argument, no negotiation, just God's final word spoken through his representative. It's a powerful reminder that in the spiritual realm, divine authority always has the last word. But how many other battles like this are being fought for us without us even knowing? The fight over Moses' body shows us a spiritual reality that most Christians don't fully get. While we're just living our daily lives, invisible battles are being fought on our behalf in the heavenly realms. Moses was dead, totally unaware of any conflict, but heaven moved to protect his legacy and his prophetic future. This wasn't some rare exception. It's actually an example of what's happening all the time in the lives of God's children. Angels are assigned, strategies are mapped out, and God himself steps in to make sure his plans for us come to pass. Daniel 10 gives us another glimpse of this when the angel explains he was held up for 21 days by the prince of the kingdom of Persia until Michael came to help him out. While Daniel was fasting and praying, totally clueless about what was going on, an epic spiritual war was raging in the heavens because of his prayer. In the same way, when we face resistance, delays, or attacks in our lives, there's often a spiritual dimension we just can't see. Heaven is fighting for us, even when we have no idea. This truth should totally change the way we see the struggles we go through. When our dreams feel under attack, when our calling hits roadblocks, when our future looks shaky, we can be sure we're not fighting alone. Just like God sent Michael to protect Moses' prophetic destiny, he sends heavenly resources to guard our calling and our future. We're way more valuable to God than we realize, and he invests supernatural resources in our protection and success. The battle over Moses' body also teaches us that the enemy recognizes our prophetic value before we even do. Lucifer knew Moses had a future role in the transfiguration, something Moses himself might not have fully understood. In the same way, Satan often attacks our potential before we even realize what God has planted in us. The attacks we face can actually be signs of the value we carry and the future God has planned for us. In the end, this story invites us to live with a greater awareness of the spiritual reality all around us. We're not just physical beings wandering through a material world. We're spiritual beings caught up in a cosmic war between good and evil. Our choices, our faithfulness, our perseverance, they all have eternal consequences. And when we stay faithful, even in tough times, we can be sure that heaven is on our side, fighting battles we don't even see. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times God has stepped in for you in ways you never even noticed? What invisible battles have been fought to protect your destiny and your calling? The battle between Michael and Lucifer over Moses' body is way more than just some old story. It's a powerful revelation of how much God values and protects those who belong to him. This showdown teaches us that our safety isn't based on our own perfection, but on God's faithfulness to claim us as his children. Even when we mess up, even when we sin, even when we let him down, God never abandons us. He sends his angels, mobilizes heavenly resources, and fights invisible battles to make sure our destiny and calling are preserved. Michael's strategy gives us a powerful spiritual weapon for those moments when the enemy tries to accuse us. We don't have to get into arguments about our mistakes or try to justify our failures. We just call on God's supreme authority and declare, "The Lord rebuke you." That's not just a phrase. It's a transfer of authority that totally changes the dynamic of the spiritual battle. It's recognizing that the fight isn't ours, but the Lord's, and he always has the final say over our lives and our future. Let this revelation spark a new awareness in you of how much God values your life. You're not fighting alone. You're not unprotected. You're not abandoned. The same God who sent Michael to protect Moses has assigned heavenly resources to protect you. Your battles are seen, your dreams matter, and your future is safe in the hands of the Most High. Live with that confidence, fight with that authority, and rest in the protection of the one who never abandons his own. Heaven is on your side, and that truth can totally change the way you see the challenges you face. If this message touched your heart, if you realize that the same God who protected Moses is protecting you, show your faith by hitting the like button on this video. In the comments, declare your trust by writing, "I trust the Lord," It's not just a phrase, it's a prophetic statement that you recognize God's protection over your life. Your declaration of faith will encourage others and create a wave of trust that honors the name of the Most High. Subscribe to the Biblical Memories channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any revelation that could transform your understanding of Scripture. Every video is carefully crafted to ignite your faith and reveal biblical secrets that will strengthen your spiritual journey. You're part of a community that wants to dive deeper into God's mysteries and live out these truths every day. Speaking of biblical mysteries, have you ever wondered who died first in human history? It's probably not who you think. In the video, Who Died First, Adam or Eve? The incredible answer to the first death, you'll discover a surprising truth that will change the way you see the Garden of Eden and the consequences of sin. This revelation ties directly into what we just learned about divine protection and the value God places on human life. Click the card on the screen or find the link in the description to watch right now. Get ready for another journey through the scriptures that will reveal secrets hidden since the foundation of the world. Your faith will be strengthened, your understanding will grow, and you'll see that the Bible holds way more mysteries than you ever imagined. See you in the next video. May the peace of the Lord be with you.